Apple. So I had set up all of the streaming stuff, sort of figuring that was gonna be working, and of course it was not the case. So we had to like adjust, and then we ended up basically holding up a phone in order to be able to make it work. So
growing
proud
pains.
Grandpa Martin, I'm sure, seeing how well Lauren adjusted to it was pretty awesome.
Yes, it's pretty
Just
good.
growing pains.
Very good. All right, guys. Well, Shabbat Shalom. We're going to do what we normally do. I'm going to mute everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we'll put ourselves on.
Your people letting someone
No, so I'm going to keep my eye on that, and that'll be okay. Good Shabbos, everybody. Good Shabbos, Mr. Lauren. So let's get started. We don't have candles here. Howard, any chance you got candles? Warren, anybody? Martin? Warren, do you have some, Warren? Oh, okay, good. Either one, whoever gets to it first, we can bring it in here. And maybe what we'll do is we'll do our opening song while we give you guys a chance to get your candles together. Sound good? I'll tell you what, Howard, you're on for next week. Warren will do tonight. How's that? Good? All right, Cantor Lauren, what can we do for a opening song?
I'm going to just do Yedi Nefesh.
Great, page 128. We're going to invite Warren. Warren, just unmute yourself. Make sure you're all set. And we're going to do candle lighting on page 120. But Warren, just make sure you're unmuted there.
Okay.
Good.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishonu b'mitzvotav lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Warren, thank you for jumping right in. That was great. Okay, good Shabbos, man. We'll give you a chance to relax. Okay, so we're going to turn now to page 130, and we'll begin Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page. Turn now to Shir Ladonai, page 131. turn now to page 132, or Zarua, the last Hebrew paragraph at the bottom of the page. We'll turn now to page 134, Zamru Ladonai.
Zamru Adonai Bechino
Turn now to page 135, Romamu, the last paragraph in Hebrew in the middle of the page. We'll turn now to L'chadodi on page 138, and a reminder, we'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs. Shemu tiferet ve'litila L'chadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikavela L'chadodi likrat kala B'nei Shabbat nikavela Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nei
ברכה בראש מקדם ניסוחה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקרבנה לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקרבנה התעוררי כי בעורף קומי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נקרא לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקרבנה לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקרבנה בואי לשלום עצרת פניו גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חמה בואי חלה לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקרבנה לך אדוני לקראת קלה בני שבת נקרבנה.
We'll turn now to page 140 as we conclude Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת כל להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשבחה עליון לזמר לשבחה עליון מזמור שיר ליום השבת כל להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשבחה עליון לזמר לשבחה עליון להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות הלב עשוי ויעלה דבר עלי גאיות וחינוך מזמור שיר ליום השבת טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון.
צדיק אמר יפרח כארז בלבנון ישנא שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עוננו בו מסבה דשנים ורעננים יהיו להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולתמו.
We will now turn to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה
אמן.
ילמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי
בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב
ואמרו
אמן. יש מרבה מברך לעולם לעלמיה יתברך
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויינשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי קדושה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה
תושבחתה בנחמתה דמירם והלמה
ואמרו
אמן.
We'll turn to page 146 for the Baruch.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed.
We'll turn now to page 148. I'll invite you to read along with me in English at the bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evil.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch Shemo.
המעריב הרביעי.
Amen.
אהבת עולם את ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח לדברי תורתך ולמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה מאהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
אוהב עמו ישראל
Amen.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
Please join me on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. Please join me on the top of page 157 in English. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, The winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. As we turn to page 158. We'll turn now to page 161. Turn now to page 162.
השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השיר שבת מי נפש שבת מי נפש שבת מי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
In a moment, Cantor Lauren will help us to begin the Amidah on page 164. And then as always, we will continue silently. Please go at your own pace. And when you're finished, if you are rising and standing, you may be seated. thoughts now turn to our loved ones, our friends, our family, and maybe those that we don't even know who are in need of healing. And this evening we are thinking of Jim Cohn, Monique Renee Banks Rathburn, Lindsay Epstein, Francis Scavone, Dolores Michka, Sylvia Orn, Yerachmiel Ben Hinda, Paloma Chauhan, Samuel Moskowitz, Audrey Lubo, Chaim Leib, Robert Posner, and Joyce Weinberg, Rick Gold, Stu Pollack, Jane London, Catherine Guarino, Emuna Chava, Deirdre Klein, Stephanie Skitt, Judy Stern, Miriam Cornfield, Roz Brody, Chana Ruth Batsara, Marlise Silverberg, Susan Spruce, Bagel Tzipora Bat Elisheva Batsara, Richard Gambino, Michelle Sawicki, Ida Basha Bat Yitzchak, Svi Menachem Ben Chaim, Rivka Bat Devora, Amy and Gavin Tucker, Janice Kurz, David Dowling, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Ben Sion Ben Moshe, Lorraine Danis, Buddy Kossoff, Shelley Newmark, David Kyle Klopman, Rivka Bat Rachel, Sarah Bat Chana, Moshe Eliezer Ben Sivia, Peretz Ben Yehuda, and Leah Bat Naomi. If you're thinking of anyone else this evening who's in need of healing, you can add their names to the chat or simply to hold them in your hearts and minds. As we turn to, again, page 371 and offer our Misha Ber. Take a little bit of a break. Good Shabbos, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. So in addition to celebrating Shabbat, we are today, and really more tomorrow, but today by a quirk of calendar, celebrating a new holiday in the history of this country, a holiday that in a remarkable stroke of unusual bipartisanship was in essence not created, but recognized beginning with a unanimous Senate vote. I think it was on Wednesday, the House voting with only 14 in opposition, of which you can look up the 14 and determine who they are, right? Otherwise approved to the president on his desk, signed and approved as of literally, today. And this holiday, for, those of you that have been paying attention, is one that is very new to many of us, but really is not a new holiday for those that are in the know. It is known as Juneteenth. And I was just saying before, as on our outdoor service, that I am not embarrassed, perhaps a little bit sad, but not embarrassed to say that as of a year ago, I really was not familiar with the holiday at all. I knew nothing about it. And to go from a place of, again, purposeful or otherwise ignorance a year ago, to being able to say that this going forward, as of literally today and tomorrow, that this holiday will be a part of our fabric of our nation going forward for generations to come. Where while there might have been some lack of knowledge or awareness on the part of many of us going into this year and into this generation, right? Going forward, every generation is going to understand this holiday in the same way that we understand Independence Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, King Day, and the various other national holidays, federal holidays, which really, by their definition, cause almost the entire economy to stop, right? Our entire country to come to a stop. And I think it's something that's really very important to celebrate, but also very important to understand and to really understand what is this holiday about and why it is being celebrated. So while this may be, again, all of you may be knowledgeable about this already, it's important, I think, to me, it was important to me today to make sure that I understood things and to try to convey that to everyone as well. Because one of the first mistakes that I made was that, I had heard that this was about the celebration really of the Emancipation Proclamation reaching the ears and the hearts of those who were still enslaved in Confederate land in the South, even while the Civil War was still technically ongoing. The Emancipation Proclamation is, and I was asking everybody else, right? Everybody know? January 1st, 1863. Okay, January 1st, 1863. And Warren's got it, right? 63. Excellent. Oh, I see Marilyn Zetsky trying to get in. Let me just let her in. Very good. Okay. However, as I said, the war in essence is still going on. So even though some of the southern states and some of the slaves who were living in those southern states started to get the message shortly thereafter that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed, I remind you again that the proclamation was that. It was a proclamation. It really didn't become a law affecting actual people until the 13th Amendment is ratified. And does anybody remember how long it takes for that to take place? What year the ratification takes place? Warren, once again, to the credit to the winner. Okay, 1865. Okay, so it takes 2 years, really, in essence, from the proclamation to the ratification of the amendment. And even then, after the ratification of the amendment, it really doesn't actually reach every part of what is now, again, a United States. Because as far west as we're going, right, remember the expansion is going on at that point, that in Texas, really the furthest west, I believe, at that stage, right, part of the Confederacy, still it was operating basically as status quo. In other words, by our count, by what I found out from the African American Museum, Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., there were still 250,000 enslaved people in Texas as of 1865, who still didn't even know about the Emancipation Proclamation or the 13th Amendment that is shortly behind it. So the holiday of Juneteenth is celebrated on June 19th, because on June 19th, 1865, that's when Union troops reached Galveston Bay, Texas, and shared the information for the first time with the enslaved population of Texas, letting them know, the last enslaved people in the country, what had happened and what was going to change for them literally overnight. So this holiday, again, may be new to many of us, but it has roots, right, many generations ago, and in which, again, this idea of combining the word June and 19th to Juneteenth becomes a holiday without really national recognition, but a significant recognition within certainly the African American community, but again, much wider than that, really, the community of people of color, anybody who traces their ancestry to those who were enslaved in those days. Now, I said before, actually, when we were outside, that let's not lose sight of the fact, right, what a significant step it is to have a nationally recognized holiday. And as I was saying before, I can still remember the days in which it was not common custom, even in New York City, for public schools, for example, to be off on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, let alone alternate side street parking being suspended, which any real New Yorker understands is the real sign that it's a holiday, right? Until that, right, if you were a Jewish student, you knew you were celebrating your holiday, but it meant nothing to the people around you, right? It wasn't recognized in that kind of way. So once you are in the status where we are really on a national, federal kind of level, and again, remember that while there may have been 14 who voted against for whatever Michigas, right, the entire Senate unanimously voted on this. This is like unheard of in recent years, almost unheard of, quite frankly, in a very, very long time, because there is an understanding about how important it is to have a holiday that recognizes, right, while this may be a holiday about a specific historical event, what it really is acknowledging, again, the changing status and the changing nature of those that had been enslaved to becoming part of a recognized part of our fabric of this country. And as I said, while this holiday may have greater resonance for those who really are directly or through generations affected by, it really is a holiday that speaks to the conscience of our entire country. And what we realize is, again, is what may seem new and perhaps even a little bit foreign to us today. In 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? People who are being born today, right? For example, my son Emmett is not going to even be aware of the fact, right, that there was a time before that holiday. By the time that he is cognizant of holidays, it will become a natural part of the fabric of his life, as it will be for his generation going forward. And what that means is that there really ought to be, and we hope will be, some significant changes also in the mentality of this country and how we think about certainly the parts of our history in which a lot of pain and a lot of suffering was caused, and in which the repercussions and the ripples are still being fed and felt in this day and age and going forward. So what I will just end with, though, is something of a caution that I think actually that comes as an instruction from this week's portion that we're going to read tomorrow from Parshat Chukat. And it begins with the story of the red heifer. Okay, how many of you are familiar on the Zoom with the red heifer? Know it a little bit? Yeah. So the general idea is that there are circumstances in which our ancestors, and in particular the priests, if they came into contact with a dead body, right, which a priest is not supposed to be able to do, right, but if it happens, there is a special ritual that is done using a red heifer of no blemish, who is shechted, and whose blood is mixed ultimately with water, and it creates basically a sort of potion of sorts. And this is able to ultimately take the impurity thing away, the tamei thing away, and to create again a sense of pureness for those who had been quote unquote impure. Now, what does this have to do with Juneteenth, and what does it have to do with a cautionary tale? For our ancestors, right, we had a particularly challenging situation in which something that should never have happened ultimately happened. And there is, thankfully, this ritual that God instructs that makes it all basically go away. Yes, it's an involved thing, and yes, the life of the heifer is taken and so on. But for the most part, there's a problem and there's a solution. And then once it's done, right? The person goes back to being the pure status. The problem with something like institutionalized slavery, for example, is that there isn't a magic potion to make it go away. The holiday of Juneteenth being now part of our national consciousness is not an excuse to basically say, well, that part of history is done, right? And we can celebrate the fact that slavery is over and everything is good. Indeed, it is a holiday of celebration, but it's also a holiday that I think challenges all of us in the fabric of this country to think about what is the role that we have played, what is the role that we are meant to play in trying to certainly acknowledge the hard and painful history, but to make sure that we are actually making the substantial changes that need to happen in the fabric of our country and our education system and our economic system and our political system to really actually achieve the goals of the Emancipation Proclamation, right? To achieve the goals of the 13th Amendment, to actually create in real terms the kind of equity and equality that we really ought to have and should have in this country in this day and age. And it's not going to happen overnight. And so one of the things that I challenged everybody before, and I'll challenge all of you watching as well, so let's take this opportunity, right? Technically, today is when we are celebrating the holiday on the 18th, only because tomorrow is a weekend. And so, when it comes to national holidays, if it's going to fall on a weekend, everybody gets either the Friday or the Monday off so that people really get, quote unquote, vacation from it. But really, tomorrow is Juneteenth. And as it happens, it is also the opening celebration of the African American Museum in Southampton, which for any of you that become friends with Brenda Simmons and for the people who helped to teach us and help us to open our eyes over the last couple of years, or last year and a half, I should say, that they're celebrating the opening of the museum tomorrow. And I give you, Shabbos permission, if you could still find an opening, you have to register on the website, to make your way over there and to celebrate alongside the African American community of the East End, the people of color of the East End, to celebrate the fact that we now have really a museum in history that will help to certainly acknowledge the hard things, the terrible things, the suffering that took place, but also to tell stories that most of us have never heard, to learn a history about our own area that we have never heard. And if you can't get there tomorrow, take some time tomorrow and learn online if you can. And then when you have an opportunity and you feel up for it, if you're okay with going to a public place at the time being, right, to find your way to Southampton, see if Brenda's working, ask her for, a cup of coffee, something like that, talk to her, get to know this wonderful museum. And let's make sure that we understand next year and the years after that while this may not be a holiday that is a Jewish holiday by any means or part of our tradition, it's now part of our national fabric. And I think something that we really, again, should celebrate and commit ourselves to understanding and connecting to. And certainly not to rely on any red heifers to make the problem disappear. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and I'm going to invite us all to turn to page 586 at the bottom of the page. Leinu Leshabech, and we'll welcome up Cantor Lauren again. Got to give her a second to get the guitar back on. Again, page 586 at the very bottom of the page. Aleinu Leshabech Ladon Hakol Latet Kedula Leotzer Breshit Shelo Asanu Kegoye Ratzot Velo Samanu Kemishpachot Adama Shelo Samakakenu Kahem Vegor Aleinu Kechol Amonam ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Now, invite those in mourning or those observing yahrzeit to rise in body or spirit as we remember those who have passed in recent months. Miles Ambrose, Morris Dickstein, Fred Eber, Sandra Furman, Evelyn Gelb, Lucy Gladstone, Lois Herr, Phyllis Katz, Jeanette Kopp, Jerry Monroe, Madge Judith Parcher, Steve Popkin, Danielle Lisa Rigg, Geraldine Rosen, Harriet Roth, Paul Silver, Joan Strong Tangzilius, Virginia Tizer, Marjorie Weinberg Berman, and Ann Weiss. We also marked the yahrzeit that occurred during the last week for Florence Bass, Charles Bookstaver, Edith Cohen, Louis Davidow, Linda Dayan, Dr. Harry Diner, Nathan Dobson, Eli Doctorow, Stephen Dror, Lee Friedman, Jacob Goldstein, Carolyn Gottfried Kahn, Esther Green, Eddie Greenberg, Helen Bernstein Katz, Ruth Clapper, Herman Kropp, Louis Levine, Peter Marks, Mary Matlis, Stephen McRae, Grace Mazel, and William Metzger, Jerry Monroe, Murray Peak, Burnett Roth, Gertrude Schwab, Abraham Silverberg, Irving Tromberg, Ben Tuft, Pearl Tempowski, Bertha Warter, Herman Weiner, and Andrea Winnow. And if you have names of anyone for whom you're saying Kaddish at home, you can add their names in the chat, say their names out loud to yourselves at home, or simply hold them in your hearts and minds. And I'll invite the mourners to join me on page 598 as we recite the Kaddish together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam le'almei almayim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing.
Amen.
Amen. If you're still standing at home, you can be seated. And again, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thanks for being here. A few quick announcements. Please to join us for Shabbat morning services tomorrow, live streamed on our Facebook page, our YouTube page, and our website. And of course, to join us for Torah study at noon on Zoom. Also a reminder that Niddah Mitzvah will be meeting on Monday at 11:30. If you're interested in joining, please contact Andrea Fagan. If you don't know how to contact Andrea, contact Eileen in the office, and she'll help put you in touch. Social Justice Committee will have its regular meeting at 5 o'clock on Monday, and the Musar Practice Group with Myra at 7 o'clock later that evening. My class, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and the Prophets will meet on Wednesday on Zoom at 12 o'clock, and my class on Journey to the Heart of the Siddur is on Fridays at 9 o'clock. Also a reminder, on Thursday, June 24th, we are going to welcome our guest speaker in celebration of Gay Pride Month, Chris Harrison, who will speak on the subject, Taking Up Space, Being Black and Bisexual in the Jewish Community. After that, he will grace us with a Q&A. Chris, really wonderful person, great writer, great overall person in general, and with a very important subject. So please join us again. That will be on Zoom, Thursday, June 24th. Also a reminder, on Sunday, June 27th, at 11 o'clock is the next installment of Ruth Joseph's wonderful book group. If you want to join the group, please do contact Ruth, and she'll be happy to share the stories with you in advance. Also a reminder, on Thursday, July 1st at 5 o'clock, we have a very special in-person and Zoom talk with Emma Walton Hamilton, which includes dinner and wine. A best-selling and award-winning author, editor, stage, television, and podcast, writer, producer, performer, and arts educator. Her topic will be raising readers, why getting and keeping kids engaged with books matters more than ever. I will nod in agreement with that. This, again, is an in-person event. All the information can be found on the website. It's one of the first in-person things that we are doing, so there's all sorts of things that relate to it. please check in with Eileen. You have any questions? And again, all of it will be accessible on Zoom. Also, for anybody who's not quite ready yet, we'll have everything as best as we can covered in that regard. Otherwise, to invite you to stick around for a little bit of our Oneg Shabbat afterwards. But tonight, I have to ask a favor that we're going to end it a little early because tonight, my mentor, my teacher, my friend, Rabbi Billy Dreskin, in Woodlands Community Temple up in Ardsley, where I was interned before I came out here, is his last Shabbat, and they're streaming the service. And I want to at least see some portion of it. He's a very special person to me, and I would not be your rabbi without him. So just, you'll forgive me. I don't want to steal the opportunity for us to get together, as it's very important. So we'll do it for a few minutes, and then I might just hop on. With that, I wish you all again a Shabbat Shalom. Cantor will give us a closing song, and then we'll do Kiddush.
Oh, Shalom, Shalom,
And I'll invite you to turn to page 123. If you have wine or grape juice handy, you can join with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yavahu v'ratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki banu b'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai nekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Chaim. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Let me unmute everybody here. Remember how to do that. Haskell to unmute. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. You should be able to unmute yourself if you want to.
Shabbat Shalom.
There we go.
Hi, Lauren. Shabbat Shalom.
Gallery view.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we'll say a Shabbat Shalom to